Well, welcome everybody. It's glad to see all of the folks that mean a lot to this family. We're going to talk a little bit about Ron's background and then get to the more formal part in a minute. First, I'd like to introduce Linda, his wife of 51 years. And you don't see that very often in today's world, but it's a very solid family. Son Garth and daughter Crystal. Great family out here in Wamego, my next door neighbors. So Ron was born in Brewster, Kansas. Does everybody know where Brewster is? Well, he's a fourth generation Kansan and grew up on this farm. And this is, of course, what led to his avocation of being involved in agriculture and particularly veterinary medicine later on. He joined the Army in 1966, and his plan was to do something related to veterinary. Now, oftentimes our Army and our own desires don't exactly mesh up. A lot of you who are in the service have had this experience. So after basic and advanced training, Ron was sent to Infantry OCS. And so infantry is not exactly close to veterinary service, but he received his second lieutenant's bars in 1967 in December. Now, you'll probably remember some of the things that were going on in 1967. Vietnam was heating up, Korea was certainly heating up. And if you remember at that time frame, we had the Pueblo incident, in which the Pueblo ship, U.S. Navy ship Pueblo and all of its crew were captured by North Korea. So tensions between the North and the South and the U.S. had certainly reached a high point since the Korean War. Well, Ron, being an infantry platoon leader, went over there and joined the 9th Regiment. This is a nickname, Manchu. This is one of the famed regiments that we have in our Army based out of Fort Lewis, Washington at the time. And during this time of tension, Ron was sent as an infantry platoon leader forward several times. On one of these forays, Ron was wounded. When he returned, of course, he was recognized also for being a great planner. One of the things that they had to do to plan at the time was how to figure out how to get our prisoners safely back from the North Koreans passing through the border point and back into South Korea and home to the U.S. So Ron sent about making this plan, and probably through great planning and a little bit of luck. A lot of things could have gone wrong, but they didn't. We got all of our prisoners safely back to South Korea and back to their families in the U.S. He then went to Fort Riley, Kansas, a place where I've spent a little bit of time. And again, he was searching for a place in veterinary medicine, but he was stationed out as an officer with the confinement facility out at Camp Function, which is just on the east side of Fort Riley. It was a mobilization point, one of the largest in the Army for both World War I and World War II. This wasn't one of his happiest times, because as you can imagine, the folks in that confinement facility probably weren't the Army's finest at the time. His life suddenly brightened when he met Linda, who was in Marysville, and they married there in 1970. He began his formal education at Kansas State University and earned his Bachelor of Science in '73 and then his DVM in 1975. And then, to make his wish come true, he went back into the Army in 1977, and guess what? He was the chief of veterinary medicine at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, the home of the artillery. So we have a half section there that's world famous, and they have probably 10 or 12 horses, so finally got to take care of some very large animals for a while. After he departed the Army there, of course, he came back to KSU and got his PhD. And he worked in veterinary medicine for at least 20 years. Worked for 3 different pet food companies. Worked for Bayer AG, that's one of the largest companies of its kind in the world. He was in product research and then as manager of pharmacological development for 20 years and retired in 2012. Ron then came to the Kansas House in 2013. I'm sure all of you know his committee assignments and his work on bills and the floor and behind the scenes. He kept insisting that perhaps we needed to do more with water in Kansas, and perhaps we didn't learn what we learned in the Army, which is don't volunteer. And he was given the task of being chairman of the Water Committee and also recruiting his committee members. Now, I know Ron for some time, as most of you do, and he's a man of character and principle. He has solidly formed a system of values and of service to his constituents and those who sent him to the legislature. And he sticks to those beliefs. So he can always count on Ron to do what's in his heart and what's in the best interest of those he serves. So today we celebrate a rare event for our Army. Our officer candidate schools have been essential to building our officers for many, many years. These have served primarily for our combat arms branches, which are infantry, armor, and artillery, but also serve other branches. These schools take our most promising soldiers, provide them with the skills to become second lieutenants and leaders. And the infantry OCS program at Fort Benning is probably one of our premier OCS programs. This is where Ron earned his commission as a second lieutenant. Today, these officer candidate schools form foundations, they sponsor museums, and they are a place of honor for those who have served before. So over the years, some special OCS graduates who've accomplished some very significant achievements in their life, both in the Army and in their civilian careers, have been given these special awards. In order to receive these awards, you have to be nominated by your peers. So this is very, very selective. Then one must be selected by a board. So it's my honor here today to formally announce the entry of Ron Highland into the Army Infantry OCS Hall of Fame. He will be honored not only with a certificate, but by having a photo placed in the Infantry OCS Hall of Fame building. So all that pass there will know the great deeds of this great man who stands just to my left. So please give a round of applause for this great award for great person.
Thank you, General. Appreciate that very much. I also want to thank my wife, Linda, 51 years, our daughter, Crystal, and Garth for being here, all my friends, and also watching in today will be our grandchildren, Clive, Otto, Iris, Esme, and my favorite mother-in-law, hello, and our daughter-in-law, Zoe. Thank you. I want to thank my OCS classmates who felt I deserved this award and nominated me. I owe them a great deal of thanks. And for all my friends that took time today to be here, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I've been asked many times, what did I learn at OCS? We really can't know what we're capable of until we are challenged, and we were stressed to the max in that training, both physically and mentally. And what you get out of that is you really know what you're capable of, what you can do. And that was probably the biggest thing that I got out of that training. I'm honored that my classmates, many of whom made the military career and served honorably and with distinction, felt that I should be nominated. To them, my brothers, I am humbled. I was asked to speak at a ceremony over in Wamego a couple of years back when they brought the healing wall, a replica of the Vietnam Memorial, to Wamego. I did not want to do it, but they pressured me and I had to do it. I'm going to share with you my thoughts that day and express the feelings that we have, those were in the service during those years. I have to read it, otherwise I won't be able to get through it. I told some friends that I was going to get out my 201 file and look up all the names of those I served with from 66 to 69. But I'm still having a difficult time doing so. In 1966, Halloween night, I was sworn in as an Army buck private in Kansas City after riding the train from Oakley, Kansas. I did not know what was ahead. None of us knew. That was the year of the big buildup of the military. Following training at Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Ord, and finally Fort Benning, we received our orders. 4 of us were sent to the DMZ in Korea. The rest were sent to Vietnam or elsewhere. As we traveled, wearing uniforms was required. We were spit on, called baby killers, and many other names. That hurt, but we moved on. But those feelings did not compare to what was to come. After active duty service, the question of why did I survive rushed in. The question remains today. Those of us who served during those times deal with the emotions in different ways. Our generation was divided then, and the healing process remains today. For me, I made a promise to myself and to all those whose names were on that wall, and those still missing, that I would live my life to the best of my ability. I want to represent them as an example of what our generation was and could be. I've not forgotten them and never will. We did what was asked of us. We served because we believe in God, we love this country, and we understand that at some point we may be asked to give back. Etched in my memory is the time my parents sat me down when I was 14 or 15 years old and told me that my country may ask me to serve at some point, as my father had during World War II. We live in the greatest country on earth. The freedom and opportunities we have and enjoy come at a sacrificial price. Unfortunately, the threats continue and other generations will follow who understand what service means. Healing is a process that takes time. One thing is certain, we must never forget and honor every one of the names engraved on the memorials, the Vietnam, and all the memorials for all the wars. They're all heroes. Thank you all very, very much.